What happens when you lied to your parents and a police officer calls them at midnight? I told my parents I was at my mate's house studying for our AP history exam. What I was actually doing was seeing how many beers I could drink at a party without falling over. The answer was 4. I found out the hard way. I'm driving home at midnight when I see flashing lights behind me. In a panic, I accidentally turn on my windshield wipers instead of my indicator. Officer Johnson walks up to my window while my wipers are going absolutely mental on a completely dry windshield. He says, "Good evening, son. Having some car trouble?" I say, No, sir. My car is just really clean. I like clean windshields." He says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I say, "Because I was being too safe." He says, "You were driving 15 miles per hour in a 45 zone. You stopped at a green light for 2 minutes. You also tried to parallel park at a stop sign." I say, "I thought it was a parking spot." He shines his flashlight in my face. "Son, have you been drinking tonight?" I say, "No, sir. I was just at my friend's house studying the Boston Tea Party. It was a very long tea party. Historically accurate." He says, "Step out of the vehicle, please." I get out and immediately trip over my own feet. I say, "Sorry, I'm just tired from all that revolutionary learning." He says, "Son, I can smell alcohol on you." I say, "That's probably just colonial spirits. We were really getting into character." He stares at me for a long time. Then he says, "Colonial spirits." I say, "Yeah, method studying. I was pretending to be Samuel Adams." He says, "Samuel Adams the founding father or Samuel Adams the beer?" I say, "Yes." He pulls out the breathalyzer. I blow into it. It starts beeping like it's personally offended by me. He looks at the reading and then looks at me. "Son, you are definitely drunk." I say, I prefer historically intoxicated." He says, "Right, that's not a thing." I say, "It is now." He says, "I'm going to need to call your parents." I drop to my knees. "Officer, please. I'll do anything. I'll join the police force. I'll become a crossing guard." He looks down. "Son, you can barely arrest your own shoelaces. They're untied." I look down. He's right. I genuinely have no idea when that happened. Officer Johnson dials my home. It's 12:30 in the morning. My dad answers sounding like a man who was deeply asleep 30 seconds ago. "Hello? This better be important." Officer Johnson says, "Mr. Simon, this is Officer Johnson. I have your son here and he's been drinking." My dad says, "Drinking? But he's studying the Revolutionary War at Jake's house." Officer Johnson looks at me and says, "Sir, the only revolution your son was part of tonight involved a keg." I whisper to Officer Johnson, "Can you tell him it was a historically accurate keg?" He says, "No." I can hear my mom in the background. "Harold, get the car and get the wooden spoon." I feel the color drain from my face. Not the wooden spoon. My dad says, "Tyler James Simon, you are so grounded." I shout toward the phone. "Dad, I can explain. It was educational drinking." Officer Johnson hangs up and looks at me. "Your parents sound lovely." I say, "They're going to murder me. Can I stay in jail instead?" He says, "Son, jail doesn't have your mom's wooden spoon." 10 minutes later, I see my parents' car approaching like a bat out of hell. My dad gets out in his bathrobe and slippers. My mom gets out holding the wooden spoon like she's been waiting her whole life for this moment. I shuffle over like a man walking to his own funeral. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad. Nice night, isn't it?" My mom does not find it a nice night. Officer Johnson watches the whole thing with the quiet satisfaction of a man who has seen everything and is genuinely enjoying this particular situation. As they bundle me into the car, he calls out, "Tyler, next time you want to study history, maybe try the library." I say, "Yes, sir, but just so you know, the library doesn't have beer pong." My mom raises the wooden spoon. I stop talking.